So, welcome in, everyone. Welcome here. It doesn't matter what time it is that you are watching this, you're here. And that's what matters, and you're ready for this. So, this morning we're going to go somewhere very deep. We have been talking about fear, and we have been talking about division, and we have been talking about the system of distraction, and we have been talking about the original design. And we've been talking about the I am. And we have been talking about what happens when a person stops looking outside of themselves for every answer, every identity, every validation, every form of approval. And this morning we go into another layer because there is a danger in every path, spiritual path. And the danger is not only that you never find truth. The danger is that you touch one piece of truth, one moment of awakening, one insight, one revelation, one profound experience, and then the ego takes it. See, the ego puts it on like a crown. The ego turns it into identity. And the ego says, I know something you do not know. I am more awake than you. I have the truth and you must listen to me. You are asleep and you are below me. You cannot understand. And in that moment, what was once opening became another prison system. What was once truth became dogma. What was once humility became spiritual pride. What was once an invitation becomes control. So this morning, I want to say something clearly. Truth cannot be owned, okay? Truth is not property. Truth is not a product. Truth is not a weapon. Truth is not something you can hold over another human being. Truth is not even a title. Truth is not a social media following. Truth is not a microphone. Truth is not a spiritual identity. Truth is not the ability to sound wise. Truth is not a collection of secret words, ancient texts, spiritual vocabularies, or mystical experiences. Truth is something you live in relationship with. Truth is something you listen for. Truth is something you serve. And truth is something that changes you. And if your truth makes you more cruel, more judgmental, more superior, more controlling, more afraid of questions, more isolated, more convinced that everyone else is below you, then you have not found truth. See, you have found another mask for the ego. This morning, we're going to talk about gnosis. We're going to talk about the monad. We're going to talk about the difference between clarity and dogma. We are going to talk about truth that is alive. Truth that does not panic. Truth that does not need to control anything. Truth that does not need to win every argument. Truth that does not require followers, and truth that does not make you feel superior to another person. And I want you to say this morning, because this teaching is not only about other people, it's about me. It's about you. It is about every one of us who has ever wanted to be right. Every one of us who has ever wanted to be special. Every one of us who has ever wanted someone else to confirm that we have finally found the answer. The ego is clever, let me tell you that. Oh, the ego can wear anything. The ego can wear religion. And the ego can even wear science, and the ego can wear trauma on its sleeve, and the ego can wear healing, the ego can wear spirituality, the ego can wear a title like teacher, and the ego can wear a title like the chosen, an author. The ego can wear the language of love while still needing control. So this morning, we're going to remove that dang costume, flick it to the wind. Take a breath with me for a sec. And say this quietly with me. I do not own truth. I am willing to be changed by truth, though. Say, I do not own truth. I am willing to be changed by truth. See, human beings have always been hungry for certainty. We want to know what is true. We want to know where we are here, why we are here. We want to know what happens after death, and we want to know why we suffer. We want to know who God even is. We want to know what reality is. And we want to know what we should do. We want to know who is right, even. We want to know where we even belong. And we want to know who we can even trust. And that hunger makes sense. Life can be uncertain. Hope and pain can be uncertain, and loss can be uncertain. The future can be uncertain, and people can be uncertain. So the mind begins to search for something solid, something that will make everything feel safe. And this is where dogma becomes tempting. Dogma says, do not question, do not doubt, do not even explore, do not listen to anyone outside of this group. We have the answer. We alone know the truth. Everyone else is lost out there, because the mind feels relief. And if it feels like the searching is over, and it feels like someone has given you a map, and it feels like you no longer have to live with this uncertainty, but there is a difference between having guidance and becoming imprisoned by certainty. There's a difference between truth and control. There's a difference between faith and fear. There's a difference between clarity and dogma. Clarity says, this is what I see right now. Dogma says, this is the only thing anyone is allowed to see. Clarity says this, I have learned something that has changed me forever. Dogma says, you must believe. Thank you for subscribing. Hi. You must believe exactly as I believe, or you're wrong. But clarity says, I can speak my truth without forcing it onto you. Dogma says, my truth gives me the right to control you. Clarity says, I remain open. Dogma says, I'm afraid of anything that challenges me. And that is the difference. See, truth does not panic. Truth does not have to scream. Truth does not have to be threatened. Truth does not have to make enemies out of every person who asks a question. It depends on the question, whether I answer. If it has related to what we're discussing, of course. But truth does not need to silence people. Truth can be challenged, and truth can be examined. Truth can be lived. Truth can be tested. Truth can be held with humility, because truth is not afraid of investigation, only fear is. If someone tells you that you may not ask a question, then be careful, run away. If someone tells you that you may not use your own discernment, be careful, run away. Run. Run. If someone tells you that they alone have access to God, truth, and awakening, run away. In salvation or hidden knowledge, be careful. Warning, red flags are out. Because that is how people become trapped. Not only in religion, not only in spirituality, not only in cults, but in any system that makes you hand over your inner authority. And inner authority does not mean arrogance. It does not mean you think you know everything. It means you refuse to betray your own consciousness. It means you remain connected to your own capacity to question, feel, discern, learn, and grow. It means you remember that no human being is meant to become the owner of your soul. Now let's talk about the monad. In some ancient agnostics teachings, the monad is the one, the source, the original beyond all names, the reality beyond categories, the mystery that cannot be reduced to a gender, a tribe, a religion, or a word, or a doctrine, or human image. The monad is not something the mind can even fully capture. The monad is not something the ego can put in a box. The monad is not something one person can claim to possess. It is the one, the source beyond all languages. You know, the depth beyond existence, the silence beneath every word, the mystery from which all things arise. Now think about what that means. If the source is beyond every category, then any person who says, I fully own the source, has already made the source smaller than it is. If the divine is infinite, then no human sentence can contain it. If the divine is beyond name, then every name we use is only a pointer, a symbol, a doorway. I'm just reading your question. I don't know how I can help with that. I'm not up here advertising myself as a psychic or anything. So yeah. So a symbol, a doorway, a way of trying to speak about what it is too vast to hold. And this is where humility begins. Humility is not saying you are worthless. Humility is not hating yourself. Humility is not becoming small. Humility is the ability to stand before mystery and say, I am willing to learn. Humility is the ability to stand before life and say, there is more here than I currently understand. The other thing is, my friend, you're asking me about somebody else. And that is for them to speak to you. That is their journey of self-discovery. Their health, everything is their journey. And whether I could see that or not, it's not for me to give that access to you. It'd be different if they were coming to me to ask access for their own things. But you're asking access into somebody else's life. And to me, that's not something I'm willing to do. Humility is ability to have an awakening and say this. This did not make me better than anyone else. It made me more responsible to love. Humility is the ability to have an insight and say, I will share what I see, but I will not force it. Humility is the ability to encounter the divine and say, the closer I come to mystery, the less I need to make myself special. See, that is the real sign. The closer someone comes to something deep and true, and less interested they become in proving their superiority. The deeper they go, the more compassionate they become. The deeper they go, the more patient they become. The deeper they go, the more understand that every person is on their own journey. The deeper they go, the more they realize that life is not a competition for who is most awake. So if you want to know whether something is true, ask this. Does it make me more compassionate? Does it make me more honest? Does it make me more humble? Does it make me more able to see another human being clearly? Does it make me less addicted to being right? Does it make me more responsible with my words? Does it make me more willing to admit when I do not know? Because a person who is grounded in truth can say, I do not know. And that is weak. That is not weakness at all. That is actually strength. You know, to say I do not know is to leave the door open. To say I do not know is to remain teachable. To say I do not know is to remember that your mind is not the entire universe. And to say I do not know is to allow mystery to remain sacred. Now let's talk about gnosis. Gnosis is often described as a direct knowing, not a merely collecting information, not merely memorizing scripture, not merely repeating what someone else told you, but knowing inner recognition, a direct encounter with something true. But gnosis is not spiritual bragging. Gnosis is saying it's not saying I have a secret knowledge and you do not. Gnosis is not a private club that only certain people can get. Gnosis is not a heresy. Gnosis is not a prize given only to the special people. Gnosis is the capacity within every person to become more awake, to become more present, to become more honest, to become more connected to the truth that is breath beneath fear. That every person has access to silence. Every person has access to breath. Every person has access to experience of presence. And every person can look inward. And every person can become unaware of thought without immediately believing it. And every person can be witness their own reaction. And every person can ask, what is true in me right now? That is the beginning of gnosis. Gnosis is not getting more information than everyone else. Gnosis is becoming intimate with what is real. And what is real is your breath is real. Your body is real. Your pain is real. Your love is real. Your fear is real. Your choices are real. Your responsibility is real. Your connection to other people is real. The fact that you are alive right now is real. And the moment you become present with that, something shifts. The no longer have to chase with truth like it is hidden outside of you. You begin to meet truth in the way you speak, in the way you listen, in the way you take responsibility, in the way you treat people, and in the way you hold your own fear, and in the way you handle uncertainty. And in the way you respond when someone disagrees with you, that is where gnosis becomes embodied, just not in a mystical experience, but in your actual life, in how you treat the server, and how you speak about people when they are not in the room, and how you act when no one is watching, and how you respond when you are triggered, and how you hold boundaries when without hatred, in how you apologize when you are wrong, and how you stay compassionate without becoming naive. Gnosis is not escape from life. Gnosis is deeper participation in life. It is not about saying, I am above this world. It is not about saying, I am here and I will be awake in how I walk through the world. The ego wants truth to become identity. The ego says, I am the awakened one. I am the chosen one. I am the only one who sees. I know what everyone else needs. I have the answer. I am special because I had an experience. It's not like that. But the truth is, every human being has an experience, by the way. Every human being has pain, and every human being has insight, and every human being has a path, and every human being has a spark of awareness. And none of us are here to elevate ourselves above the rest. We are here to become more human, more loving, more honest, more aware, more compassionate. And the ego wants to create a heresy. The ego wants to say, I am higher, you are lower. I am awake and you are asleep, and I am spiritual and you are or worldly. I am pure and you are broken. But this is the old game in the old world. It is separation, wearing spiritual clothes. It is the same divide we see in politics. It is the same divide we see in religion. It is the same divide we see in money, and the same divide we see in race, class, tribe, and identity. Only now it has incense, crystals, ancient word, or words, or spiritual language around it. But it is still ego, you know. And the ego can wear a cross. The ego can wear a robe. The ego can wear a lab coat. The ego can wear a political slogan. And the ego can wear a spiritual language. And the ego can call itself love and light. But if it needs to be above someone else, it is not love. If it needs to shame someone else, it is not truth. If it needs to control someone else, it is not wisdom. If it cannot tolerate a question, it is not clarity. If it always looking for followers, it is not freedom. It is this, and this is why we must check ourselves, not just others, ourselves. So when I speak, by the way, I am trying to serve truth, or am I trying to be admired? Which one is it, right? When I teach, am I inviting people into their own discernment, or am I trying to make them dependent on me? You know, that's what this is. And when I share my experience, am I offering it with humility, or am I using it to become special? See, I'm not special. We're all the same. We're all on the same journey. We're all gaining these same experiences. And when I get challenged, can I breathe, or do I immediately need to defend my identity? When someone disagrees with me, can I remain compassionate, or do I need to make them wrong in order to feel right? These questions are not meant to shame us. They are meant to free us, because every one of us has an ego. Every one of us wants approval sometimes. And every one of us wants to be right sometimes. And every one of us can become attached to our story. And the goal is not to pretend we do not have ego. The goal is to stop letting ego drive the vehicle. The ego can sit in a car, but it does not get to hold the steering wheel. Psychology gives us language for this, why this is so difficult, because the human mind often looks for evidence that supports what is already believed. And we notice that what confirms our stories, we ignore what challenges it, and we protect our group because belonging can feel like safety. You know, we protect our identity because identity can feel like survival. And when someone challenges our belief that has become part of our identity, the nervous system may react as though we are being attacked. And this is why people panic around questions. This is why people become defensive. This is why people argue so hard. Sometimes they are not defending a fact. They are defending the identity that the fact has been tied to. And if I lose this belief, who am I? If I question this teaching, where do I belong? If I admit I was wrong, will people reject me? You know, if I change my mind, will I lose my community? These are deep fears that we create, and we have to have compassion for that, because sometimes people cling to dogma not because they are evil, but because certainty feels safer than the unknown. But freedom requires that we become brave enough to sit in uncertainty, to say, I may not understand everything. I may have been wrong about some things. I may need to learn still. I may need to grow. I may need to listen. That is where transformation begins. Not when you win the argument, when you become open. When your nervous system no longer treats every question as a threat. And when your identity becomes spacious enough to hold ground and growth. Thank you for the love. And when you say, this is what I believe today, but I will not turn it into a prison. This is what wisdom is. Now let's bring it into nature. Nature never acts like it has arrived, right? A tree is always growing, right? A river is always moving, and the forest is always changing. Leaves fall, seeds break open, winter comes, spring returns, things decay, things become soil, soil becomes life. Nothing in nature is static. And yet nature does not panic. The tree does not say, I failed because I lost my leaves today. Oh crap, I'm sorry, I failed. My leaves dropped today. And the seed does not say, I'm not enough because I have not become a tree yet. The river does not say, hey, yo, I'm wrong, man, because I changed directions, okay? I just was lost for a second, you know? Nature teaches us that change is not failure. Growth is not betrayal. Letting go is not death in the way of the ego fears it. It is part of the cycle. So why do human beings cling so tightly to the version of truth? Why do we become afraid of growth? Why do we become afraid to change our minds? Why do we call someone fake when they learn something new? Why do we call someone lost when they begin to question the old belief system? Perhaps because we have forgotten nature. We have forgotten that truth can be deep without being rigid. We have forgotten that wisdom can evolve. We have forgotten that a person can be sincere and still be wrong. We've forgotten that the ability to change your mind can be a sign of courage. Truth is not dead object. Truth is living. Truth is a relational. Truth is something we keep meeting as we grow. And this does not mean anything goes. This does not mean facts do not matter. This does not mean reality is only whatever we want it to be. It means our understanding is always partial. Our perspective is always limited. Our language is always trying to describe something larger than language. The dogs are going crazy. Guys, hush! Enough! And because of that, humility is necessary. Humility is how we stay open. Truth. Humility is how we keep growing. Humility is how we stop turning belief into a weapon. Now, I want to speak about the difference between truth and judgment. Truth can be firm, and truth can be say no. And truth can name harm. It can name harm, and truth can create boundaries. And truth can say, this is not okay. Truth can say, I will not participate in this. And truth can say, I have to walk away. And truth can say, I see what is happening and I will not pretend it is healthy. But judgment is different. Judgment says you are beyond redemption. You are nothing but your worst actions. You are beneath me. You deserve my contempt. Truth does not need contempt. Truth does not need cruelty. Truth does not need humiliation. It doesn't need to be humiliated. Truth can be clear without being violent. And truth can be compassionate without becoming weak. Truth can protect itself without trying to dominate. And this is what I want us all to learn, is to walk in truth without turning into judges. To have discernment without becoming paranoid. To have boundaries without becoming cold. And to see manipulation without becoming obsessed with enemies. To recognize pain without making pain our identity. To recognize lies without becoming liars ourselves. The most difficult work is not to seeing what is wrong in the world. The most difficult work is refusing to let what is wrong with the world become what is wrong inside of us. That is where the spiritual path becomes real. And you can talk about the monad, you can talk about gnosis, you can talk about consciousness, you can talk about ancient texts. But if you cannot treat people with the dignity, you have missed something. If you cannot apologize when you are wrong, you have missed something. If you cannot listen, you have missed something. If you cannot be humble, you have missed something. The point of awakening is not to rise above humanity. The point of awakening is to become more fully human, more tender, more awake, more grounded, more responsible, more capable of love. And now I want us to do is a practice, is put your hand over your heart and take a breath. Let those shoulders relax and feel the body right where it is and say quietly, I release the need to be above anyone. And say it again, I release the need to be above anyone. I release the need to always be right. I release the fear of being wrong. I release the need to control how others see me. I release the need to turn my experience into a throne. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to listen. I am willing to grow. And I am willing to change by truth. I do not own truth. I walk with truth. I listen to truth. I deserve truth with humility. Now imagine for a moment that you are not trying to be special. You're not trying to be above anyone right now. You're not trying to prove you are awake. You are simply here, a human being, breathing, learning, growing, trying, awakening. And everyone else is on their path too. We're all on a path of self-discovery. Some people are deeply asleep in fear, and some people are waking up, and some people are healing, and some people are lost, and some people are confused, and some people are afraid. Some people are cruel because they were never taught safety. Some people are loving because they have done their work. And you do not have to control their path. You only have to walk your honesty. You only have to remain open. You only have to return to humility. You only have to return to love. Truth cannot be owned. It cannot be monopolized. It cannot be locked inside of one religion. It cannot be trapped inside one book, and it cannot be purchased. It cannot be inherited. It cannot be forced. It cannot be used as a weapon without becoming distorted. Truth is not something you possess. Truth is something you serve. Truth is something you become available to. And let's not forget that. Peace and love. We'll see you guys tomorrow.